Hello, guys. Welcome for yet another session of IIDA Summit initiative by the Architect's Diary, sponsored Blendin, our global design news app. Our next speaker for today is Mr. Jwalant with us from Anback Studio. The philosophy of Anblack Design Studio lies in designing the process that leads to the solution. We believe that the design process should be robust enough to inform all stages of design, from concept to detailing. We constantly challenge ourselves to rethink these processes to suit the project. And Black Design Studio has in its core to achieve energy efficiency that deploys intelligent systems and makes use of natural materials smartly. We have Mr. Jwalant, founder and principal architect of Anne Black Studio, with us. He will be sharing his take on technology as a tool for design and share some of the challenges as well as solutions for the process. Handing over the screen to Mr. Jwalant.
Hello, good evening, everyone, and thanks for the introduction. Uh, Before I start, could we please share my screen so that I could just start showing my work and then talking along with it.
Yes, it has been shared. Please,
Ye-
Jordan, you can go ahead.
Yes, thanks a lot. Now, NBlack Design Studio is a 10-year-old design practice based out of Ahmedabad in India. And we focus on a very transdisciplinary kind of a practice. Uh, we do architecture, uh, art, furniture, and interior designing. Mainly, obviously, we do focus on architecture, but because of love for technology and uh, complexity, or let's say things which we want to experiment with, art and furniture has become quite an important part of NBlack over the last few years. Some of the projects which I take you through today are just some examples of where we have uh, faced challenges, but more than facing challenges, we have had to innovate certain systems and techniques and explore ways to do this complex forms and buildings within the context of India. Most of the technology and things which are available within the Western environment of construction are not really very easily available within India. This is a project which is a gallery, a transportable gallery, which came to us about 4 years back, and it embodies a lot of technological advancement within the ecosystem which we have in Ahmedabad. Now, the entire structure had to be possible to flat pack and move to a different location. Now, to do that, we had to first challenge: do we need a foundation? What kind of material do we use? What kind of structural system do we use? So, having worked with multiple scenarios within a digital platform, we came up with an idea of a folded plate, which is 1 mm mild steel plate, which folds and creates a structure within a module. That module is basically repeated uh, uh, along a conical form, and that becomes our structure. So it's literally a puzzle which you put together, which could be flat packed and moved to a different location. This is the final output which we have got for 11-meter size of this dome. Now, what happened while designing this project was that we pushed ourselves not to design a final product. We pushed ourselves to keep continuing designing the process. So today, after having completed this project, we can make this 1 mm mild steel plates converted into a much bigger size gallery. Now this size of the gallery, a footprint we got about 11 meters roughly in diameter. We can stretch it up to 18 meters with the same material thickness. We can go even beyond that, but then the engineering would change a little bit. So this was a very, very interesting project for us, because it was very challenging to mix technology, which would be a digital form of designing and structural evaluation, then metal cutting, which would be a laser cutting, but a lot of bending started to happen by hand, because there are limitations within the construction industry to use CNC bending to a certain things. Even after CNC bending, the welding, even 1 mm sheets are not something which is used within the industry. So it became a very, very, very interesting and an uplifting environment for everybody who was working within the project. We do have a lot of incredible machinery being used in India, but those are generally very, very, very specific to a certain industry. So automobile industry would use a lot of this technologically advanced systems, but then they are very specific to only automobiles. Likewise, other industries do have very high precision machineries which they use, but within the construction industry, not many would put hand on it. Even our fabricators and other people within this project, it was difficult to find them. This is a shot of the inside. It is now so it started as a gallery, but now it is being used as a performance area in the weekends. So it has become a very, very interesting learning experience for us as well. That something which we had envisioned for a particular purpose has now evolved into a multiple purpose, just because of how we kind of put it as an architectural element, and that became very, very interesting. Also, they have not we have not done any acoustics in it, but the form helped us. So it has really worked very well as an experiment for us. And now, more than architecture, it has literally become a product for us. Toddler's Den is a school for pre-primary kids, which came to us about 5-6 years back. And the challenge was very, very interesting. The challenge was to build this school only within a period of 3 months' time, after their main school is done. So we had to devise a way to have everything prefabricated when the site is ready, after the civil work of the surrounding buildings are done, and then plug this building within the context. The brief did mention that the form has to be slightly more organic for the kids, to it become playful. One could should be able to go on this uh, roof and then play, and the mounts become like an interactive thing for the kids. So for this project, and even for the gallery which I showed earlier, on site there were literally just two drawings. These drawings were a diagram of the numbers which are coming on site. So one had to also try and understand how to start drawing a building which is non-conventional in form, in material, in construction, as well as non-standard way of putting the building together. The center lines are no more your center lines. So everything kind of starts to challenge, but we still have to use the same people who are used to a conventional building. So the interesting part here is what we call in our language, Gujarati, Hindi, whatever, jugaad. So jugaad has come a lot as our savior, because Indians do understand jugaad very well. So how we kind of do or manipulate a very advanced technology like CNC machines, laser cutting machines, water jet machines, and then make them work along with the craftsmen, which or the quality of craftsmen which we have, within our context in India. So the metal frames came in, then the sheets, the insulations, and all of them came into being, and it kind of turns into from a product, or from something which was very machine cut to a space which comes alive. So there are these two large spaces in the building for pre-primary schools. So from here, if you see the bottom image, it is from where kids could go up and use it as an undulating landscape or garden, and then underneath you have this very interesting space for them to interact. Moving from architecture, art, or design installations and art, and somewhere we are in between that, uh, came very, very handy for us to experiment technology in a scale which was manageable. So before I did the two projects, I was lucky to get chance to kind of work with much smaller scale things to explore and develop my team. One is obviously within our studio, and one which is outside our studio, like carpenters and fabricators who could start to understand my language or my design language. This was a project where it was one of the first projects when I first moved to Ahmedabad, and the idea was to take the Islamic mukarnas and distort the Islamic geometry into something which had a force part of it. So on the left, you see Mr. Rajiv Sethi, who was the curator uh, in that of this whole house where one of our work was coming in, and this is when I had just moved from London, where I worked for Zaha. And when this came to us, we designed it and everything worked very well. And when it came to fabricating it, we thought, okay, we'll just CNC it. And then it struck to me that what I did in London was something where India will take at least 10, 15 years to be there. So I cannot wait for the technology to come to really start to make complex pieces. On the right, you see our carpenters who have put this together. Now, we were making about 13 of these pieces. So this is just one of them. And we were making 13 different pieces. To make those 13 pieces, we had to connect 30,000 pieces, because each triangle was a different triangle. We had to put a lot of things behind it to make that happen. These are two another pieces, and that really taught me a lot. That taught me how do we integrate technology, which is very new to this country, to the technology of the craftsman. Because technology is not something which is only digital, or which is only machine, or which is only what we see now. Technology is a term which we use very, very uh, brashly, or in a way where we only understand technology in a single way dimension. Technology is a system where a certain kind of tools or knowledge is used to make something. Now, there have been traditional technologies where we use lathe to do it, technologies where we do woodwork, or the tools to make woodwork. So during this process, and this was a very, very complex project to put together, I really learned how to understand our technology, which is with us, which has been with us for over hundreds of years, to merge it with the new technology which is coming, which is updating very, very fast. So something which has not updated for over hundreds of years, and something which is updating almost every other day, is very, 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 very important. This is another piece which was again made in a similar fashion. uh, Now, coming to a next project, which is again an installation. We had a very, very interesting brief, where in a resort in Dehradun, we had to hide a building which was coming up on a plot adjacent the resort. and we couldn't hide it because it was a 10-feet structure. So we had to develop a form which can, be right at your eye view, or which kind of hides your viewpoint and hides the building. So we came up with a leaf form within that context of a resort and the greens. And again, you see here, the things are cut within CNC, but then carpenters are, doing the work on site, managing certain minor things, which is very very important to work with, and then cladded their entire thing with wooden panel. So now it's a curved surface cladded with a flat reclaimed teak wood, which are all same in size, and kind of putting together. So a lot of understanding of what will be required while doing this process came from this understanding of wood, understanding of workmanship, understanding of joineries, which came from the technology which our craftsmen use. So here you can literally see a skin which is behind, which is a structure which is purely CNC, and a skin which is in front, which is wood, which is a piece of craft. The same technique we used in another project of ours, because it was so exciting to work with a curved surface and a flat module, that we wanted to take it further into another material and then have a little bit more of work. So we had designed a screen in Ahmedabad, where the idea of the screen was to imbibe the patterns in there is a very very famous jali in Ahmedabad called Siddhi Sayyad Jali, and it's a beautiful tree of life pattern. And so you see here, there is this tree of life. So this central form is taken from the Siddhi Sayyad Jali, but then we transform that form into a geometrical changing pattern, which was then projected onto each piece of marble, which was then uh, handcrafted and inlaid. So it's a coming together of a very very complex form made out of modules. And each module, I don't know how many people have worked on this, but when the entire thing comes together, it just fits in as a puzzle, and that creates something which is quite wonderful, and for me, a really happy moment, because till then we don't know if everything will fit. Even if one person has made a mistake, everything will just fall apart. So here again, the technology used is very very diverse, from hand inlay work with obviously using some bit of machines, to a CNC cut, laser cut metal structure which is behind, which holds the entire screen together. This project is a very structurally challenging project for us, because we were devising a screen which doesn't have a static structure behind. So every plate is connected to another plate which is disjointed, and every angle, every distance from one plate to another plate was different. And this was like a challenge which we took, because I was always fascinated, what if we create a skin where it doesn't really have a structure behind, but it's kind of connected with each other separately. Now, what I've spoken before has a background which looks like this in most cases. So here you will see a guy with a computer in the workshop, trying to put certain numbers together, because there is never so much of a drawing on site. It's always a diagram which goes to the craftsman, because every piece is numbered in a particular way, because the size, the shape, the angle, everything changes. So in the left bottom, you see that there are this uh, joineries which can change sizes and angles, and those sizes and angles are part of a drawing sheet which is there on site. So this is how our work looks in the background, where there are numbers, and there are these structures behind, and there is uh, uh, you know sleep deprived intern or an architect or myself sitting there and trying to figure out with the craftsman how to put this entire geometry and complexity together. So this is how the entire screen then comes together uh, as a form of art, as form of design. From this, what started to happen that we wanted to challenge ourselves further, and we wanted to bring in kinetic movements into our work. Uh, this is an artwork which is called a ghatam. A ghatam means a pot, and we developed a pot which was breathing in the sense that because it feeds us. So there was an entire story behind it that we breathe because we eat, we you know and that's how we grow and we breathe. The entire structure was made out of brass, which was then patinized. So here you can see uh, laser cut triangles, again each one of a different size, being put together in a workshop by our fabricators. It's a 6 feet diameter three-dimensional artwork where I'll share the video where the central portion, which is made out of wood, moves very very softly uh, to breathe. So I just keep it on for a few seconds. So if you focus on the central part, you will see a movement which is very very soft. So from just being parametric in a manner of a static system, we started to become quite interested what happens when it becomes kinetic. We have we have used services of uh, Studio Motion Works. They do a lot of kinetic artwork. So most of our kinetic works we collaborate with them for the back end technology to get that done. I'll move to the next one. Uh, from artwork, also what excited us to try new things was to try parametric design as structures in furniture. So I will share with you our one furniture piece which has been made out of bent wood. So again, we see a carpenter who has never done anything organic before this uh, use a CNC cut formwork at the base, but the knowledge of the wood, how much it will bend, how we will bend it, how much it needs to steam, comes from them. And they put the first layer of wood, then the second layer of wood. Now here the interesting bit was they were not really sure if this will stay. Now my engineering or my process of thinking said that this would stay. They were like, it might not stay, so don't show it to anyone at least for a year or couple of years until you are sure that this is not going to break. So it's a very very interesting relationship now with technology and craft, where they are doing it with a full heart, even understanding that this might fail, which is very very exciting, because the moment one thinks they would fail, they would step out. They would say, no, I'm not going to do this because I know this is going to fail. So they were unsure if this will work, but the best part is they still put their full heart and their knowledge of wood within a piece like that and make it work. Now we have this since many years. This has actually won quite a few awards. uh, we have retailed this, and if you see this piece of furniture, uh, we have let go on every traditional form of structure within furniture. So we only have six supports, which are point supports without any cross beams, which generally supports a seat of a structure. So it is a 25 you can say, surface made out of bent wood, and it stays by itself just because of the form uh, and the technology which has come together within this. And this would be my last piece which I'll show you. It's a kinetic uh, artwork which is called a white peacock. This is installed at the Bombay airport, and it's a life size peacock which was very systematically designed within a digital format to get a wing movement which works as if a bird flies. So it folds when it goes up and then it comes down flat. Now those kind of things would not have been very easily possible without the digital technology which we have today. Yes, you can even do this with hand, but I actually made 500 iterations of this wing movement just by changing dimensions. If I would have to do it with hand, it would have taken me few months to do it, and I could do this within, let's say, a month's time. So this is how technology, which we call in today, helps to speeden up the processes which would have otherwise taken a lot of time. Uh, so this is the final product where you could see. So we still have the, in this video, at least this view, the thing open from the top. So you would see that the wing comes down flat and then it folds up and goes, and this moves about 30 meters horizontally and about 20 meters vertically. And it's a mixed medium artwork. So we have different materials, but each piece was designed using a digital platform, a lot of CNC, but again a lot of handwork gone within it to put this entire thing together to make the you know machine work in the right manner. uh, yeah, thank you. I think I'm done. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, Nidhi, we can conclude. Jolan, fantastic. We loved your project. Of course, the Bucky project was like something which we admire, and of course, the last what do you call, the last peacock sculpture was something which
Radha,
was very technologically
Radha, you
driven
can
as
explain
well.
her and
And
we'll conclude this screen.
I think we'll sort of wait for a few questions. Currently,
Sure.
210 people are live, and we'll wait for 5 minutes to get few questions as well.
Sure.
Yes, thank you. I think, Jolan, there is one question been
Yes.
asking. Technology is new to India. Is it really, as a country, has never explored enough technology? Are we hesitant of accepting more complex technologies, which is reality making research, analysis, construction, grammar? If yes, why do you think so? What are the different reasons apart from lack of awareness?
Uh, so technology in a modern sense, yes. India is always slightly behind technology when we talk about modern technology. Traditional technologies, I think we were far ahead. So if we talk about traditional science of India's, we were far ahead in a lot of sense from the Western world. But when the modern technology came into being, and when we started to rely on what we call as the modern science or the Western science, we started to fall behind because at some point people thought technology was not important. Our initial motto was roti kapda makan, and when you talk about roti kapda makan, you really not think of technology as it. And once you start to
Right.
fall behind, you don't know how far you go behind. and
Right.
and and at some point, we become hesitant to technology, because the moment you think, now let's say I take example of Bucky, or I take example of the school I showed you. Even if a new
Hmm.
client comes to me, if he wants it, the first thing he will ask me, how much will this cost? So mentally, for us, anything new is expensive. And yes, it is going to be expensive, because until technology becomes uh, commonly used. So when first phones came into, I think Siemens were one of the first phones which came in some 1990s, early 1990s. And I remember even that time a phone was about 35-40,000 rupees. Now that 35,000 rupees is more in value than today's 1 lakh rupees of an iPhone. But just because it was rare, it was very,
Hmm.
very expensive. So India is hesitant on technology because until we start to use more of it, it is going to be expensive.
Hmm. Hmm.
Also, the trust on the technology is very different. Now, in the West, concrete is actually more expensive as a cast concrete than concrete is in India. So in India, you will see more concrete and brickwork than metal and glass buildings. But in the West, it's completely different. So it's somewhere where we are stuck within a scenario which will be very difficult to break. So practices like mine are trying to explore, to an extent, technologies, but it is not about awareness, it is just about economics. So technology now is actually economics then, because everybody is ready to learn. You won't believe, people who are not educated, my carpenters, my fabricators, they could actually go into Rhino and model,
Hmm.
review, model, and draw, just because they've been working with me. So they are not shy of technologies, not at
Yeah.
all. It's the availability and the economics of it, which is very, very tricky. So somewhere we are in between, and somewhere it will change, but I don't see change coming overnight.
Riddhi, can you take over the other questions that are like pulling in? A few of them have been mentioned in the dialogue blocks as well.
So I cannot see any because some
I
glitch
can
happened,
see.
and
Okay,
I
so
was
so
just
so,
thrown
so one
out
is
of the thing.
one is from you. No, I can see one. Yes, I can see,
Now I can
regarding
see one. Yes.
fabrication of such complex shapes. How do you tackle it? How do you try to find alternatives if it fails? Okay, so that's a good question. How do you find alternatives if it fails? I have never, to be honest, questioned myself. What will I do if it fails? Because the moment you think about failure, you are expecting it to fail. And I always believe in an idea that you should never have plan B, because the moment you have plan B, you are so sure that your plan A will fail. Now in our case, we do a lot of due diligence before making anything. So it's not as if we don't make prototypes, it's not as if we don't try it out in a certain scale. So all the works we have done, there is a lot of background work, there is a lot of due diligence within the system. We make prototypes, we make very, very like very, very robust digital models, and then go with it. So till now, luckily, things haven't failed, and our style of not having plan B has worked. But every time it stands, I'm still happy thinking it did not fail. So so but the complex shapes and forms, you just have to go through the iterations, go through each step of it to make it possible. It just the form, and you say someone, I want to make this, is not going to make. You have to think about your nuts, your bolts, your thicknesses, your bendings, your everything, whatever comes into picture. Think about it. I think then it's possible.
So we'll go to the next one. What is your thought
Okay.
process while making artwork? Do you keep in mind the acceptance of the artwork in society while designing?
No, I don't think about acceptance of any artwork or anything while designing, because whenever you want to stretch your limits. I wouldn't say the limits of architecture, because people have done, even if you see as a global scale, beyond uh, what a practice like mine is doing. If you want to stretch your limit, the moment you start to think about the perception of people around you, you are limiting yourself. So, what I believe in, not to think about people, it might not be perceived well. People might say, "What the hell are you doing?" But that's okay. So I'll give you one example of. So I was when I was studying at the Architecture Association in London. We were doing this pavilion, which was made out of GRC panels. Now this I'm talking about almost 15 years back. GRC was a new material, and we were doing a very complex pavilion, and it was put in a context of a Georgian square. Now, London only has one intact Georgian square, which is called Bedford Square, where the Architecture Association is. And while we were building this pavilion, while I was a student, and we were there for almost a month, there were groups of people who would come and tell you very contrasting things. So once there's this young, group of guys, girls who are coming, and they'll say, "Oh wow, what are you doing? It's so interesting," and this and that. And then a few days later, there were this a couple of old ladies who were walking by then, and they were like, "What are you doing to this beautiful Georgian square? You are spoiling this Georgian square." So there are always contrasting things which people would say, but they would only say these things if you put something in front of them. If you don't put anything in front of them, there will be no reaction. So I don't care about the reaction, but there should be a reaction. So let's just aim for the reaction. Whatever it is, we'll take care of it.
Quite right,
Very
quite right.
true.
Okay.
I don't
Are
think
there
so.
more questions?
No, I don't think so. There are any further questions. Let me check once. No, I think that would be it. Yeah. So there are no questions currently.
Thank you, Mr. Jwalant, for a very informative session today. I loved seeing all your projects, small or big, and each one was as exciting as the next one.
Thank you for having me. I think it was not probably as planned, but it worked out well, I hope.
Very informative, Jwalant. There is one last question. I think, Riddhi, if you can.
Yes, I'll just. For last project, which software did you use for mechanism?
Okay, so for the last project, you can't say we used for the mechanics, but we did use for the diagramming. We used a software called Katya, which was used for diagramming the process. But then the final model and all of that happened in another software. So we got a chance to work on it for a short while. So I used there is a thing called digital project, which is part of a Katya, when I worked with Zaha. So I had knowledge of how to use it, but it was used only for diagramming and understanding the wing movement. Then everything else was done in different softwares to manufacture it, because it became too complex for anybody within my team to use it. But then we just used part of it to diagram it. But this could be done in anything. See, the idea is not a software. The idea is a logic. You put a logic, and in any even in AutoCAD you could do it in a very simple format. You just need to know how to put the logic. So the understanding is the logic. There is nothing. People are too, at least students today are too hell-bent on digital as an idea, but it is not about digital. I have done installations where we have not used any digital thing, and when I tried to convert it into a software, I failed because it was so complex as piece to piece that I just couldn't translate it into a software. So we used uh, analogous methods to put it together. So software is just a tool to help you try something faster, but it is not something which is the only way you can make things. That's what I would say. Even if I'm very heavily invested in software as a design practice, but still it is not. People don't know the software and they think I cannot do this because I don't know software. It is not like that. It's all about the logic which you put in your head to make something possible.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for attending today's event. I hope everyone loved tuning in today. There's a lot more happening tomorrow as well. Don't forget to join from your registered email address tomorrow at 11 a.m. We had a total of 400 attendees, and others were exploring the venue. It was a great day one, guys. Thank you for tuning in. See you tomorrow. Have a great day ahead.